Thank you. So, hello everyone, and thanks for having me. I'm very happy to be here with you in Durham for the first time in North Carolina. I'll try to tell you about the Django project website. And to be more precise, I want to tell you all I know about the Django project website. This is the home page of the Django project website. You may think that it's the same as in the past year, but I can assure you that a lot of people are helping to maintain and adding new features to it. Like the dark mode version added a few months ago together with other accessibility improvements. And I'm helping to maintain and adding new feature to the projects, to the website. So I want to tell you all I know about this website, but first I'll present a bit myself. I'm Paolo Melchiorre, and I'm the CTO of 20Tab. I'm a contributor to the Django project and DSF member. I'm a Django Girls coach and organizer. I'm one of the co-organizer of PyCon Italia, which took place in Florence. I'm also organizer a local meetup in Pescara, my hometown, about Python, of course. And now I'll tell you about my personal knowledge journey of the Django project website. So the first section of the Django project website that I ever visited was the download section. In this picture, I'm my first conference ever. It was the Plum conference in 2007. At the time, I was using Zoop, another web framework based on Python. But during the conference, someone talked to me about Django, and so I went to the website to try to download it for the first time. And was the aspect of the website at that time. It already contained all the information to download Django 0.96 as a compressed archive or the development version using Subversion. And this is the same download page as you can see today. It has a new theme, also contain more information about different version and methods to download and install Django as a Python package. On the same page, you can also find a very interesting section. This is the graph with the present and future Django version. I found it very useful to plan the project maintenance on the based on the date of the release for new release and end of life release. I haven't used Django right after I've downloaded it for the first time, but when I decided to give it a try, I went into the documentation to start studying it better. In this other picture, I'm in the group of Zop developers at EuroPython 2011 in Florence. And at that conference, I attended for the first time 2 talks based on Django. And those talks was presented by Tom Christie and Simon Willison. And they inspired me to start study Django for sure. And I started from the documentation page. This is the Django documentation at the time. It was very basic and did not have a search function or other things, but it already contained the tutorial that helped me a lot in my first step with Django. And this is the same documentation today. It has the same clear structure, but it has more content. Other than showing you the content of all the page like this one, it has a new interesting feature that I found useful and I want to show with you now. The first one is the offline documentation download function. Thanks to read the docs, you can download a version of the documentation in the format that are most useful for your needs. This is the HTML version of the documentation that you can download as a single compressed file. I have a copy of this locally to use when I don't have any connection on my computer. This instead is the PDF version of the documentation. In this case, is as it appears in my document reader on Linux. I found it very useful to share because it's only one file, and it's also easy to take notes on it and put highlights and some other things you want. And finally, the format that I found more useful for me is the EPUB one. You can see how it appears in my ebook reader, and I have to admit that I use a lot during my journey when I don't have, or I can't use my personal computer traveling around. Another documentation feature important for me is the full-text search. Today it's multilingual, is based on Postgres, and it's added more and more feature during the year. But after using an old version of it, I tried to improve it personally. This is a photo of the Django sprints that I organized after the EuroPython 2017 in Rimini. I propose to work on the Django project website, trying to use the full-text search based on Postgres to replace an older one with an external search engine. And in the following months after that first sprint, I created an official pull request with a complete working version of Postgres-based full-text search, and that was merged in a few weeks. And here you can see an example of all the full-text search feature I've integrated since the first implementation. Here we have a French version of the Django documentation. Also, the input text is in French, and it uses some web search syntaxes like exact phrase search and word removal. And we can also see the first implementation of the word highlights in the results. This is how you can see from your mobile phone. But other than French, currently, the Django documentation full-text search engine can potentially support 28 different languages out of the box, thanks to Postgres. This is the complete list. However, only 7 of them have a public translation of the documentation at the moment. To find the other translation of the documentation, you can use the language menu. As you can see, it expands from the right. It's over the content in this screenshot, but it closes after you select the language you want. And this is the same menu in the mobile version of the documentation. You can see more clearly all the language you can select. The list is long enough, but it can be even longer, counting on how big our community is. We need the help of all of you to translate the Django documentation in many other languages. So please join the Django translation project on Transifex to help translate the documentation in your language. You can see the dashboard with some metrics on Transifex that usually increase after the release of a new Django version. After using the Django documentation for a long time in English, I joined the Italian Django translation group to help them translate the documentation. And we finally reached the required amount of translated words to be added in the website. As you can see in the screenshot, the process, other than very interesting, can also be funny. And so I invite you again, please help us to translate the documentation in other languages, because it lowers a lot the barriers for newcomers that don't speak English in a lot of countries. The bug tracker was the next Django project website section I started using after the documentation. You can find it in this subdomain, you can read here, and which is hosted by an instance of Track, an open source project management system written in Python. In this photo, I'm at the end of the Sprints DjangOcon Europe 2017 in Florence with 2 Django core developers, Mark Tamnil and Marcus Olterman. And they helped me a lot in my very first Django issue I opened in that time, and reviewing my pull request. And they also helped me to use for the first time the issue tracker. And this is the very first issue that I created in the Django bug tracker at the time. You can read the instruction on how better use the tracker, on how open an issue, but I suggest to you to try to open your issue for the first time and to learn how to use it, as I did 7 years ago for the first time. The Django issue tracker contains a lot of issues, and searching on it can be intimidating because there is a lot of work done there. But you can use the dashboard subdomain to try to navigate all the issue and read metrics about the development status. This is a screenshot of development dashboard. I took that some days ago, but the number today can be different. As you can see, it's easy to read metrics and links to preset filters. To get started with Django contribution, you can select to work on blocking feature or new feature, or you can choose to review other issue from other person. If you want to contribute to the Django project, I would suggest you to bookmark this web page because it's easy to read day-by-day information on the Django development status. There are other sections on the website that I only discovered after this previous one. The first is the community section. I use this section to find all the Django community resources, such as the different mailing lists, and more recently also the forum and the chat server. On this same page, you can also find the Django RSS feeds section. It has been very useful to me to be updated on Django community, and also to find so many new articles and blog posts related to Django. And as you can see, you can expand one section to see the latest items in every section, and you can also add your blog feed. I had the blog feed, the feed of my blog years ago, and you can do the same with yours if you have now. But other than the community blog, I also started reading the official blog on the Django project website. It contains all the events and the new news published since the first Django release. In fact, I found it very interesting reading very old posts from the first area of Django. It helped me to understand how Django community was born and grew up. And on this same page, you can find the upcoming events on the Django community, like, for example, this very DjangCon US or the upcoming DjangCon Africa. One of the last sections I ever read on the website as a user was the one about the Django Software Foundation. It contains a lot of very interesting information about Django and its foundation. I found this page late in my career as a Django user and contributor, and I learned more about the foundation, its goal, and I found the list of DSF member and read about the DSF board. But unfortunately, this section is not so well organized, and it's not easy to navigate it. The last section I want to show you is very important for the Django Software Foundation, and it's the fundraising section, where you can donate some money. In this section, you can find the list of the sponsor, the explanation on how the money will be used, and of course, a form to make one-time or recurring donation to the Django Software Foundation. The user experience in this section can be better, as others in website, to help people to find more easily the information they need to let the foundation communicate more effectively with the community. But luckily, we are doing something about this section. I took this picture during the PyCon Italia 2023 in Florence, where two of my colleagues, Laura and Virginia, gave a talk about the work done by 20Tab, the company I work for, on the Django project website. They are both experienced user experience designer, and they are helping us to analyze the current situation of the Django website from the point of view of the user experience. During the last DjangCon US in San Diego, Carton and Will, that is here, asked me as a CTO of 20Tab to help the DSF to improve the experience on the website. And we were happy to help and slowly started to work on that field. So our user experience expert analyzed in a few steps they browsed on the website, looked for improvement, and they did this type of research separately, and they then compared the score and the highlights that could be improved. After that, they made a report with the results and analysis with a relevant issue that were related to accessibility, information architecture, and user experience. And there was some very interesting find that we did. But after that, we decided to do a second phase, and that consists of collecting feedback from a user, because the best way to improve the user experience is to ask them. And so we plan to do hits with a survey, interviews, and collaborating with the community. The first step is just the user survey. Virginia and Laura made this survey after the analysis work to find out more about some point. So I strongly invite you to scan this QR code and briefly answer the survey question. It will only take a few minutes. We already opened it in June during the DjangCon Europe, and we collected a lot of answer, but we want also collect answer from user from US or other country that are here to have a more diverse base of answer and working on it. You will find the question on your experience with the website, so no complicated question, and we ask your feedback as a Django user about the website, and it will be very, very useful to us to go next level. The survey will be still open for a short time, so I invite you to scan it and to answer it. It will be very, very short. And after that, in agreement with the DSF board, we decided to proceed with a phase of more in-depth interviews with some users who gave their availability in the survey. And you will find in the survey a question asking you if you are available to an in-depth interview. And we are choosing different type of person, newcomers, experienced user, contributor, or other type of people to go more in deep in some part of the user experience. So we'll start in the next few weeks, and if you want to participate as a volunteer, you can fill the survey and participate. In this photo, I'm at DjangCon Europe 2022 in Porto with Chol and Sarah, two very active contributors to the Django project repository. The GitHub repository was the main point to contribute to the Django project website itself, and I started doing it some years ago. So I invite you to go on the GitHub repository and start reading some issue you can be interested in. There are tags that can help you to filter on that issue, and you can also try to take charge of some of this issue and propose a pull request to fix them. And in your help will be very, very appreciated. I hope I've been able to tell you all I know about the Django project website from my experience. If you want, you can download these slides because they are released with Creative Commons license, and I'll share you in a bit the URL. 20tab as a company will share information about our contribution to the Django website, and you can find out more about using this context. And instead, to find more about my work in Django, you can use all these contacts here. And I already uploaded the slides on my website, and you can find it with this QR code. So thanks for listening, and if you have some question, I'm here.
Thank you, Paolo. When you got to the DSF page, you had said you sort of discovered that fairly late in your experience with Django and on the website. From your professional experience, is it appropriate that Django and the DSF both exist on the same website and in the same sort of user experience? Or might we be better off in separating them somehow?
We will find out more after the survey results, but from my point of view, it's correct that they are in the same website because you can find technical answer to your question in the documentation. You can find fundraising news, and it's correct also to find what foundation are promoting this software, this community. The only problem now, it's very difficult to find, and also when you find the Django Software Foundation, it's hard to find the reports from the meeting and member lists and similar things. So it will be more important to organize information and let people know more in advance or before when they started navigating the website, that there is someone that are working for them. And I think it can be also a way to let them decide to contribute back, because they will know where to go, to which people to ask for help or offer their service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great question. Other questions?
Thank you for the talk. So the Django project website has no tracking whatsoever. I would assume that's somewhat unusual. I'm just asking, would it be helpful if for a week or something there was some analytics so you could see heat maps or get a sense of mobile versus desktop among users, or do you not need that?
Sorry, I haven't. There is a lot of.
Sorry, the question is, would it be helpful in redesigning the website if there were some analytics based on real usage? Because right now there's none.
Okay. For other customer, we're starting using something alternative to Google Analytics. We start using Plausible, I think. It's an analytics that don't collect data for user in particular, but only aggregated data. So also in Europe, there is a lot of restriction about the privacy of people. And so in that way, we are able to not add the warning on the cookie policy, because they don't collect any cookie at all. So it can be a good way to collect aggregated data on user without any problem from the privacy point of view. But it can also for sure be helpful also to see where people found more information, navigate more, or where people are stuck, or where people can find the paths of the information. So it can be helpful.
Next questions?
Great talk.
Thank you.
You talked about a couple of different events that happened where you worked with these teams to identify and start working on solving some of the problems with the website. Do you know of any plans to do these in regular sprints at regular events, or are there events or groups planned to just have a concerted focus on this?
I show you some picture of sprints I decided to propose in other conference to work on that. But I think after we've finished our work in analyzing what's the status now, we can also start a working group, because they are released. They announced a few days ago to work on what we want to do after that. We received a lot of suggestion or requests to add things or feature from a lot of people, but the best way to do it is before stop, collect data from people, user, and when we have all this data, we can say, okay, there is a lot of work to do. We can organize a sprint in conference, we can organize a working group, or I don't know, a channel in the Discord server, in the forum. We can do a lot of these things, but we can do in a better way if you know more before starting.
Thank you for that question. Next questions? I got a question for you, Paolo. Say someone has just touched Django, they're interested in contributing, what would be a good place to start?
Sorry?
So say there's someone new to Django, hasn't been involved in Django project very much, and they wanted to give back. How would you suggest, what would be first steps that you would recommend?
Yeah, the first step is go in the news section, the Django project website, start reading. In the last weeks, there have been a lot of news There are elections ongoing. There are conferences, working group, and I don't know, a lot of things going on. Start reading from them, and then you find that after being involved in the community, you will start also being involved in the development. I think the technical part is important for us, especially in the first part of our approach to a software, but the community part is more important if you want to be a better member of the community, improve as a person, as I did. When I started giving back, I learned more and more than when I only used the software. So get involved.
Let's thank Paolo. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.